All right. Good morning, financial professionals. I'm Phil Haug, Senior VP of Sales and Partner at E4 Insurance Services. Welcome you to the Brew, building relationships every single week. For those of you that are tuning in for the very first time, I want to say welcome and thank you for attending. And as always, we like to start out with our national days today. We've got some good ones. So we've got National Pistachio Day, National Tell a Fairy Tale Day, which sometimes we have to tell somewhat of a we have to Andrew, I think sometimes we got to tell a fairy tale that to sometimes convey the value of our of our products. And then National Levi Strauss Day. So there are those are our 3 days today. Now I will say, word of advice, pro tip: if you like pistachios and you're in the car, I recommend getting the already shelled ones. If you are eating the ones that are in the shell, you better find a car wash that has a vacuum because they're kind of messy. So I learned that lesson on Sunday in preparation for National Pistachio Day. So today we're going to wrap up our business valuation program with learning about North American's complementary business valuation platform and how together with their advanced marketing department, we can help position the advisor for success in the business owner market and help grow their overall practice. One thing worth mentioning before Andrew gets into this is a lot of our carriers offer a very similar service. One thing that differentiates North American is they've actually contracted and brought in a firm that it's third party, and this is what they actually do. So I mean, this is it's there are some very very quality informal business valuations that are out there, but North Americans kind of stepped it to the next level and hired a firm that does that's all they do. So kind of a cool unique feature. And the other thing is North American has also rolled out a brand new product. Was it when did you guys break the champagne glass on the hull? Was it this
About
week
two
or
weeks
last?
ago.
About 2 weeks
Yeah.
ago. So they've got the Protection Builder IUL 2. A lot of great guarantees inside of that product. Andrew's talked to our group a little bit about it. Before we get into the valuation, I'd like him to talk about that. But before we start, I'd remind everybody that if you have any questions, you can use the Q&A chat button in the format with the Teams meeting, and you can also raise your hand and speak up if you want to do so. And as always, everybody will be entered into a drawing to win a CE voucher and a Starbucks gift card, and we'll announce our winner at the end. So, Andrew, what's cooking at North American, and talk about the business valuation services that you have.
Absolutely. Appreciate the introduction, Phil. As Phil mentioned, we just recently launched a new protection product called Protection Builder IUL2. It is a death benefit guaranteed product. So it's meant to guarantee all the way up to 120 if you want to dial it there. It doesn't mean you have to, right? A lot of times people design a case to guarantee to 90, 100, 105. But the fact that it's a true death benefit guarantee and it's extremely competitive. So very low cost. If you're looking at a spreadsheet on who's got the cheapest guarantee, we're going to
Mm-hmm.
show up towards the top, especially on single pays or 1035 cases. And it's not just that, right? It'd be one thing if we had, one of the lowest death benefit guarantees in this product, but the fact that it has living benefits built into it. It's got
Right.
an ROP feature in years 2025. The client can get their money back if they want to walk away from that. So it's got all these neat features in the product and cash value potential, even though that's not the reason they're buying it. It's on
Right.
an IUL chassis, so there's growth potential. It's a
Mm-hmm.
really neat story, and we're proud that now E4 and more importantly the advisors have access to this product.
Well, and you guys have always, I've always felt like North American, you guys kind of, when it comes to the living benefits, you guys kind of you set the bar. With your ADD or AD advantage term, you've got
Absolutely.
the permanent product. So that I think you made the good great or the better best, right?
Absolutely, you're right. We've got our trio of living benefits. I always call it the CCT, critical, chronic, terminal illness riders, all built into the product. Everything from, as Phil mentioned, our term product to our accumulation products, and of course now this protection death benefit product. So we're really excited. And I think as we talk about valuations here today, this is a solution that a lot of business owners. That product is a solution a lot of business owners are probably going to turn to or are already
Yeah.
turning to, for their own protection whether it be for themselves personally, for their estate, or even if we're talking business owned insurance, it could definitely be a solution.
Yeah, it's a pretty versatile tool. I mean, I was just going to mention, when it comes to business owners, we've talked about this in other brew conversations where, you really have a few options as a business owner when it comes to transitioning, right? You can close it, you can sell it, or you can give it away, right? So you can walk away
Absolutely.
from the business, you can sell it to somebody, or you can essentially, give it to your kids or your key people. And all of those create a pretty big need that are going to last well beyond the ownership of the business. So, when it comes to the lifetime protections and guarantees, that's or even like the if something happens when you're running the business, those living benefits that you guys have built in, those are pretty powerful to create some cash flows. Business owner doesn't show up to work, things don't happen the way they're supposed to,
Yeah.
right? So,
Yep.
having the ability to use your solution is pretty valuable. So, like I mentioned before, moving into the valuations, you guys have partnered with an outside firm. We've had the opportunity to have a few valuations run. Materials that have come back have been super impressive. So, really want to give you the spotlight here to highlight what it is North American and your partnerships can do.
Absolutely. Thanks, Phil. And it's funny as you were talking about pistachios. I'm probably on the opposite end of the spectrum as Phil. So I enjoy having to shell my pistachios, and I think the reason for that is I feel like I eat less when I've got to go through breaking up the shell. So it's maybe self-limitation there that I don't want to eat a whole bag of pistachios, so I choose to get the ones with the shell. And my favorite are probably the garlic and onion from Trader Joe's. If any of you have a Trader Joe's in your neighborhood, definitely check those out. That's probably my go-to pistachio. But I digress. So wanted to talk.
I was gonna say this conversation is just nuts.
Absolutely. So as Phil mentioned, wanted to share a little bit about North American's business valuation platform. But to do that, I really think, we ought to set the stage for what is the opportunity? Why is this even important, right? Why are we talking about this? How can it help advisors in their practice, in their business, in their opportunities in 2025? What does evaluation look like? And then how I think, that can be used to unlock future success yet this year. So when we think about the opportunity that's out there, if any of you are in tune with what's going on in the M&A space, with businesses, especially last year, right? There was a record number of existing businesses that were bought out in 2024, and all signs show that that is not letting up, right? And so when you think about the reasons for that, there's lots of them. It could be the market, the economy, but primarily the driver for it is this generational shift. And when we think about that, it's no different than a retirement landscape. Why are there so many people nearing or entering retirement? It's simply that generation, right? It is so populated that's what we're seeing in the retirement space, and we're also seeing that because that's where the majority of business owners sit as well.
Hmm.
So the fact that the majority of business owners are over the age 50 tells us that hey, they've got a runway, right, where they can see the light at the end of the tunnel. That in anywhere from 5, 10, 15 years, they're going to want to exit that business, whether that be on their own terms or not, right? God forbid it's death, but it could be disability. It could be that neither one of those. It could be simply be retirement or wanting to exit on their own terms.
Hmm.
Unfortunately, though, with all this opportunity, with all the amount of businesses and business owners that are going to exit here in the coming years, one of the sad statistics or sad facts that we know about this industry is that most business owners have no idea what their business is worth or the value that they've come up with in their mind, unfortunately, isn't accurate.
Right.
And so the fact that we know that most business owners are going to sell at some point, the
Well, and
majority of business owners have stated that, right? That
it,
they want to exit the business. They'd like to sell on their terms, but if they don't know what that business is worth, where is the starting point at?
well, and that's, you talk about the generational shift and the record numbers. I've referred to it as the silver tsunami. There's a huge bulk of people that are, coming into that age bracket, and I like to surf, so I wouldn't mind surfing that silver tsunami. But the other thing is that the buyout market it's dynamic, and with the evolution and there's PE firms that are coming in and buying up some of these
Absolutely.
businesses, and the multipliers that they're using will fluctuate year to year, cycle to cycle. I mean, I remember, it was unheard of in the insurance business for PE to come in and buy agencies. It was
Yeah.
always, another firm or an associate, and it was 2.5 times, revenue. So if you got $1 million worth of commissions coming in, the business is worth 2.5, 3 million bucks, right? Well, now PE comes in and like, all right, we'll give you 10. We're going to do 10x, right? Well, that business owner might be sitting there going, well, my business is worth $3 million when it's actually worth 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So a lot of times the lack of awareness is an undervaluation of the business that they have.
Absolutely. And you said, you remember when that was an anomaly that PE was in this space. And fast forward to now, more often than not, when we see who the buyer is, it is PE. So at
Right,
that point, the landscape has totally shifted and changed. But it's important, again, for these business owners to recognize what is my business worth, and that's the starting point. But
right.
so often with a lot of advisors I talk to that have clients that are business owners, they're not having that conversation. And when you start to peel back, the reason why, it's the lack of comfort in this space. Andrew, I don't know how to talk that language. I don't know
Hmm.
how to start that conversation with the business owner. I recognize that, I manage their AUM. Maybe I even do some insurance-based solutions for that business owner client. But that's kind of on their personal side. I've
Right.
not been able to approach them as far as it relates to the business. And that's why we think the valuation is such a great tool for advisors to have, because it gets you that foot in the door to begin that conversation. As Phil mentioned at the beginning, something that North American did that's unique relative to the valuation space is we said we are not going to do these valuations on North American paper. We're not going to
Hmm.
do them in-house. We're not going to use, our advanced markets department. We of course have an advanced markets department with attorneys and other staff in there. We decided to go a different route and say we're going to go outside North American. We're going to go to the valuation space, and we're going to contract with one of the leading valuation companies in the country, Marshall and Stevens.
Hmm.
And by doing that, we can provide some credibility to the space so that when you, the advisor, are working with business owner clients, that the output that you're putting in front of them doesn't say North American on it, doesn't say XYZ carrier, it says Marshall and Stevens, right? This is a third party that is not here to sell any insurance-based solutions. This is to start the conversation and to help you as the business owner recognize what your business is worth. Here on the screen, you can see some of the stats related to Marshall and Stevens. Suffice to say, they've been around a long time. They know
Hmm.
exactly what they're doing. You can Google them. You can find out more about the company and their expertise in the valuation space. But that's really what we wanted to bring to the table here is say, you know what? We want to provide you, the advisor, with a solution that has some teeth in it, and go with an outside company that is going to provide this valuation again to your client, the business owner, so that we can get that foot in the door and start that conversation. Speaking of getting the conversation started, right? This is the piece that we have that's really simple. It's really simple. It's customer facing. It's something that a lot of advisors use so that when they're having that initial sit down with a client, with that business owner client, to say, what are the things that are most important to you? How would you rank them, right?
Hmm.
Is exit planning important? Is succession planning important? Is your personal estate planning important? Because based on how you tell me, how you rank these things, what's important to you, then we can put together a plan that is going to meet those solutions, right? And address those things in the order that you've ranked them. But again, the business valuation leads naturally hand in hand with this,
Hmm.
because most often than not, we hear back that business owners, they do want to sell the business eventually. Even if it's a family business, they want to transition that right to that next generation. They want an exit plan. Every business owner that I've talked to envisions a day where either their family takes over the business or they can see themselves sitting on a beach somewhere in retirement. That's
Right.
great. But what do the steps look like between now and then how do you get there? And unless we start with what is this business worth, and then we can build and establish a plan off that. But if we can't even get out of the blocks and tackle that question, then it's really hard to address the other concerns that the business owner has.
Yeah, there's a lot of steps between the office desk and the cabana bar.
Yeah, exactly. And so
Yeah.
that's why, again, it all goes back to the first question is what is my business worth? And of course, partnering with North American and in turn Marshall and Stevens, we can help you, we can help your
Mm-hmm.
clients realize what that is. The steps are pretty simple, right? We've got some marketing pieces that E4 has access to. We've got a questionnaire that the business owner answers, basic information on tell us about your business, how long have you been around, how many owners are there, right? That's important. As we talk
Mm-hmm.
about the future of the business, we want to know who the owners are, what their ages are, right? Because if you've got two owners, one is 62 and one is 40, right? That's a different conversation that we're going to have with two business owners that are in their 60s. So we need to
Mm-hmm.
know kind of the breakdown of ownership. And that helps Marshall and Stevens. The more information we can get on the business, it helps them put together a better valuation. And so, in addition to the questionnaire, we get 3 years of financials, and then Marshall and Stevens takes about usually about 14 business days, and then they'll be able to provide us with the output. They do look at different methodologies. Those of you that are already familiar with valuations, you know that there's different ways to look at a business depending on the type of business that it is, right? A
Right.
law firm is going to be valued different than a construction company, right? Because construction company is going to have a lot of hard assets,
Mm-hmm.
tangible assets, whereas a service-oriented place like a CPA or a law firm is going to be valued different. So again, Marshall and
Mm-hmm.
Stevens, being experts in that, they know exactly what they're looking at, and they know how to arrive at the best value of that particular business.
Well, and
And
leading into the setup of this was given the dynamics of the business markets changing,
yeah,
with Marshall and Stevens, this is what they do, right? They're going to be on the leading edge of they have a better understanding of what those
exactly.
valuations and applications are.
You're exactly right. Versus someone like North American. Again, if we were providing this output, we would be tasked with being on the front line of what's changing, what's new out there.
Right.
And we don't have to worry about that because we're leaving it up to the experts who specialize in it to provide this information to us.
Perfect.
Again, after about 14 business days, we get the calculation of values. Here's an sample of what that looks like, and it goes really in depth to that particular business, and not just looks at based on the financials that we got, um, you know, what is the business approximately worth? But they do a really good job too of assessing the market, and they come back with comparables saying we looked at other businesses that are doing exactly what you do or close to
Yeah.
what you do, and we look at recent sales on those businesses, right? What is the market telling us the multiple should be based on your value? And so it's no different than if you think about if you were selling a house, it would be important to know what other houses in your neighborhood have sold for. That can help give you the value of your house. And so Marshall and Stevens does the exact same thing. Again, as Phil mentioned, because of their expertise in this space, they have access to that data and they know what other similar businesses have been valued at or even sold at.
Yeah.
Heck, they might have assisted in those sales as well. And so, again, they provide a really detailed output, and they get on the phone. More importantly than just providing this data, they get on the phone with you, the advisor, and your client, and walk through these numbers so that the experts, can answer any questions that you have as it relates to this.
Nice.
So, in closing here, again, I know we talked about the opportunity briefly. We've talked about the valuation and the process. And I want to leave you with a couple of quotes. The first one here is from Abraham Lincoln. The best way to predict the future is to create it, right? When we're thinking about business owners, the best way that they can ensure their retirement, the best way they can ensure that their family's taken care of if they pass away early is to do the planning today, right? To take the steps today, say, you know what? If I die prematurely, I don't want my spouse or my children to be forced to sell that business for pennies
Yeah.
on the dollar. If I get disabled, I don't want to have to be forced into a buyout situation where maybe I get shortchanged. If I want to retire in 5 or 10 years, I need to start the planning today for what that looks like and figure out what my business is worth. And so the best
Mm-hmm.
way to protect the future, again, is to take the steps and to create it. And perhaps a less known quote, or maybe more known quote, is Joni Mitchell's, "We don't know what we got until it's gone," right? And
Yeah,
so
exactly.
let's not wait until it's too late to do the
Yeah,
planning. And I think the challenge to you advisors listening is, don't wait until it's too late to have that conversation with your business owner clients. Approach them today. And so with that, right, the question to you is, who do you know, right? Who do you know that's a business owner client? Maybe they're already an existing client. Maybe they're not a client, but you know them, right? They're in your circle, but you've been afraid to approach them because you don't know how to begin the conversation. And this tool is a great way to unlock that conversation, and more importantly, unlock success that you can have in this space. And you don't need to be the expert. I think that's probably one of the biggest takeaways that I hope you take, is that you don't need to be the expert. Let Marshall and Stevens be the expert. Let E4 be the expert. Let our combined advanced markets attorneys be the expert. You just need to have the client, position this with them, and then we can help partner with you to see that success all the way through, right? So if you're
yeah,
thinking, hey, this sounds like something I could use, what do I need to do? Again, I'd ask you to reach out to your RVP at E4, work with them. They have all these marketing pieces. It's as simple as having that business owner client complete the questionnaire.
yep,
3 years of financials, that's balance sheet and income statements. We do not, Marshall and Stevens does not take tax returns. The reason they don't use tax returns is, if you think about what the purpose of tax returns are, at least in my mind personally, it's to pay the less amount of taxes possible.
yep,
That's not what they're looking for. They want to look at the business, right? They want to look at the
right.
health of the business. And so balance sheets and income statements are really the truest form at seeing the business. So 3 years of that. It does have to be 4 million or above in annual revenue. So 4
Okay.
million and above in annual revenue. And the reason for that, it's not to say that businesses under that can't be sold or bought or even profitable. We know that they can. It's just that's the threshold where we see business owners take that next step and do
Yeah,
planning.
yeah,
And ultimately, we want the business owner to find value in this. We want them to take the next steps, and that'll put you in a good spot because it'll also generate revenue for you. So we want to make sure this is actionable,
right.
an actionable tool that you can use with your clients. So 4 million and above for annual revenue. Again, it takes Marshall and Stevens about 14 business days to provide that output, and then we can get on a phone call and go over everything with you. So
Nice.
again, this is something that I appreciate Phil bring me on to talk about North American's valuation service, but I really think this is a great conversation starter for you and your business owner clients to get them to that next step.
Well, there's a couple things that I wanted to bolt on to it. He had the Lincoln quote, and he's got another one that I think is very relevant with this. And he said, if you gave me 2 hours to chop down a tree, I'd spend the first hour and a half sharpening the axe. And a lot of the planning steps that we're talking about here make a huge difference when it comes to actually executing the plan, right? So the other thing is we do these things. It's no secret, right, Andrew? We are here to sell business, right? And our business is selling insurance policies or placing them in the right spot. And I in light of it's been the topic of the last 4 or 5 months. In light of the Connolly case, I'm looking at this going, you know what? This is a can't lose proposition, because if I've got a client that has things, okay, if they got a buy sell set into place, they've got valuations already set up, they've got things already going. One of the one of the cruxes of the Connolly case was they didn't do a valuation, right? Well, let's check that box, right? And then you've got the value added service of, I got a great client that, or a friend or an associate that I particularly care about. I want to make sure they do well. They might not have anything, and now you've got that third party resource to come in. So you're kind of in, as a sales guy, I like being in a situation where I can't lose, right? So either they
Absolutely.
don't have it and they need it, or they got it and they need extra help. So I like those things. So I
Yeah,
don't take my
you're
word
absolutely
for it.
right. It's a
Yeah,
can't lose proposition, right? And it more importantly positions you as as an added value to them, right? I mean, if they see you as they're an advisor and you're helping them with all these other things, but now you can help them with their business planning too. I
yeah,
mean, that just strengthens the relationship. And again, you mentioned earlier that we're also in this to generate revenue. Absolutely. Think about the revenue this can add to your practice this year in business cases, because
Right.
Phil, and I know that business cases tend to be larger cases than personal ones. So, not only are you helping your client, you're also generating some really good revenue for your business
Right.
this year.
I mean, you look at that valuation sample that you shared, 17.5 to 20 million, like that's a big, yeah, and those are pretty common, right? But
Yeah,
I don't see a
absolutely.
lot of 17 to 20 million dollar houses. Like
Yeah.
the value of the asset can somehow, when you're building it for whatever reason, that owner might not give it the same, you know, credence that it deserves. So,
Absolutely.
well, hey, we do appreciate you coming in. And you are going to be attending BBT Great Lakes coming up in at the end of April. Is that
I'll be
correct?
there.
You'll
Yes.
be there. So for those of you on the call that want to meet Andrew and talk to him one-on-one, you have the opportunity to do that. You can register for our BBT coming up at our website at e4.insurance. You can also find our library, today's recording, as well as all of our other brews at our brew library as well. And I'd be remiss not to mention we started our more sales topic series, our third Thursday at 3. We have an educational library resource that's also out there when it comes to specific sales topics. And last week we launched our first one, and we did it around using our RMD calculator. So that's also out on our website at e4.insurance. So it's kind of a one-stop shop. Got BBT, we got the brew library, and we got the third Thursday in educational library stuff. So this is probably the fun part, the most fun part of it, right? We give away our Starbucks gift card and give away our CE voucher. So, Andrew, I'd like you to pick a number between 1 and 37.
I'm going to go with 26 since today's the 26th.
That's a good number. And Carissa Schlotman is also, that's her favorite number today too. So Carissa is our winner of the CE voucher and the gift card. So as always, we do appreciate you coming in and spending time with us. Andrew, I know you're a busy man. So for you to take the time that you've allotted, we appreciate that very much. And for our advisors as well, we do appreciate you taking time to come in and to participate. Next week, we're going to continue our buy-sell agreements. We're going to continue focusing on our business owners. And we'll be kicking off March's Brew Series, and Preston French, our Southeast Regional Vice President, will be our month's MVP. And he's going to start out with Mike Coyle, a Vice President from Lincoln. And he'll be joining Preston to discuss how buy-sell transactions may cause estates in a taxable event, and dive deeper into those conversations like we do on all of our brews. So, Andrew, thank you very much. Have a very, very good rest of your day. And we'll see you in a little
Thank
over
you.
a month up in Wisconsin.
Take care.
Thank you.